Imagine a quiet night, sitting in front of your television, enjoying some peace and quiet. Suddenly, you hear a knock at the door. As you look through the peephole to view who it is, you see a child standing calmly with their face pointed downward, waiting for you to open the door. When you say, "Who is it?" the child lifts his face and you see a terrifying visage. Black, soulless eyes staring at you, and the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end as you're gripped in fear. This isn't just a story. Unfortunately, many people recount moments when they were visited by black-eyed children, and evil ensued. What exactly are these beings? Is this paranormal, or are they modern-day monsters? Before the rest of the episode, remember, if you enjoy Freaky What content, click the freaky liker button shaped like a hand. Subscribe to the channel and click the content alarm bell so you know when your favorite freaky content is uploaded. Okay, let's get back to it. The legend of black-eyed children is truly a modern-day marvel. While many legends and stories are centuries old, the first well-documented experience of these unknown entities took place in 1996. In Abilene, Texas, a local newspaper reporter was enjoying a night off while running mundane errands. The sun was setting behind the horizon as he parked his car in front of the local movie theater. This theater sat beside the business where he needed to pay a bill. He planned to write a check while sitting in his car, walk to the drop box, and leave his payment. As a journalist, he was very observant and practical. He wasn't easily scared and had seen a lot as a reporter. As he began writing the check, there was a knock on his car window. On the other side of the glass, two children stood very close to the window. One stood slightly back and off to the side. These kids were estimated to be between 9 and 13 years old. As he lowered his driver's side window slightly, he said, "Can I help you?" The child in the back just stared and said nothing, while the boy in the front began to speak in an almost patter-like performance. "Can you give us a ride?" Immediately, the reporter felt unnerved by this situation. He felt an unexplainable fear that grew with every minute, even though his mind told him that these children were harmless. But his senses heightened, and his conscience told him something seemed terribly wrong. At that very point, both kids lifted their faces into the light, and he noticed that they had deep black voids and no eyes. Momentarily frozen in terror, his thoughts raced as his fight-or-flight response began to kick in. "I can't help you," the reporter said. He reached down and began rolling up his window when the child closest to the car began slamming his hands almost supernaturally into the window repeatedly. He quickly put his car in reverse, but before he pressed the accelerator, one of the children said something in an almost demonic tone, sending chills down the reporter's spine. "Mister, we can't come into your car unless you tell us it's okay. Let us in." His foot slammed into the gas pedal, and the car began to back up. As he began to turn the steering wheel, he looked in his rearview mirror where the children were standing moments ago. They were gone. The journalist frantically turned to look to try and view the children, but there was no sign of them. Arriving home, he ran inside quickly, locked the door, and collapsed. After telling his story, many others began to come forward with experiences of their own. According to sources, black-eyed children typically ask you for something with the expectation of getting closer to you. Are they vampires? Thousands of people go missing every year, their bodies never to be found. Perhaps the missing were not as bold as the fleeing news reporter and fell victims to the black-eyed children. Another story that began to circulate was more recent. It was January 2016. A snowy blizzard raged on in Vermont. The weather was harsh and travel was impossible. Cars weren't driving down the road and people sheltered in their homes. A local couple was sitting inside enjoying the warmth as the air outside was thick with falling snow. Suddenly, they heard a knock on the front door. The wife was instantly startled. Even though she was used to company, it was odd as the winter storm was so intense. As the husband reassured his wife that it was probably a neighbor, she quickly went to open the door. When the door opened, she could see the outline of a boy and a girl shivering in the winter storm. "Miss, may we use your phone?" the boy said in a rehearsed tone. She began to feel unnerved, but disregarded her feelings to help these children. She ushered them in and went to retrieve her phone in the other room. The husband ignored the children as his wife took care of this request. Upon returning, she rounded the corner and saw the children's faces in the light. To her horror, she realized that both children had completely black eyes. As she stopped and stared, her husband began complaining. "My nose is bleeding bad," he said as blood dripped onto his newspaper. At that very moment, the power went out, and only the light from the street lamp shining through the bay window lit the room. In almost perfect unison, the children said, "Our parents are here." The woman stood in shock as she watched the children immediately turn around and walk out the door through the snow-covered yard. As they were a few feet from the road, a nondescript black car drove up. The driver looked like a man in a suit, with the shadow of his hat hiding his face. Both of the children got in the car, and the car drove off. The following month, the husband was diagnosed with severe skin cancer, and the wife began to suffer from severe nosebleeds, leading to more serious medical issues. To this day, the couple claim that an onslaught of health issues has continued to follow their experience with the black-eyed children. Demonologists believe the black-eyed children are children of the devil himself, and if you let them in, you are allowing the devil to enter your life. They want to enter your home to call their parents. However, upon making eye contact, it seems like there is a much more sinister plot to the story, as we have just seen. This legend continues to mystify those that hear it. As more people come forward to reveal their stories, investigators and paranormal enthusiasts wonder if the black-eyed children might be entities with sinister intentions, extraterrestrial beings, or even ghosts. Others believe these are just stories made up by people who claim to have experiences. One curious fact about these black-eyed children's stories is they are usually told by people who don't share their experiences widely. The reporter from Texas originally only shared his experience with a small group of friends, one of whom eventually leaked it onto the internet. Most people with these accounts are not responsible for spreading their stories to the world. As a new phenomenon, why do these beings exist? And what do they want? Some paranormal experts believe that they exist to harm people and spread fear. Others think the beings are people who may have experienced possession or fallen into a psychosis. What do you believe? Legends like this create more questions than answers. Even though black-eyed children are a mystery, and you might not have seen one for yourself, listening to the experiences of others and the horror that they endured comes as close to meeting a black-eyed child as you probably want to get. So, remember to lock your doors and be careful to check who is on the other side. I'd love to know in the comments what you believe the black-eyed children really are. This one's a mystery, and I can't wait to see what you think.